Well, this is a desperate attempt by Denis Napthine to try and cover up the massive funds that he's ripped out of Bendigo TAFE, and that in the process he has killed off Bendigo's standalone TAFE Institute. Bendigo TAFE has lost over 150 jobs and 36 courses, and now Denis Napthine is trying to desperately cover up his previous cuts. He's also providing very little details about what these funds are to be used to, leaving many questions unanswered in the Bendigo community. But the Bendigo community does know that we've now lost forever our own TAFE Institute. It's been taken over by a Melbourne-based TAFE. It's Denis Napthine and his Liberal cuts that have inflicted this damage on Bendigo TAFE, and we have now forever lost our TAFE to our local community. Denis Napthine has brought Bendigo TAFE to its knees, and his announcement today shows that he's very desperate in trying to cover up his Liberal cuts. He's desperately trying to deceive the Bendigo community for his past funding cuts, and he's only making these announcements in the shadow of a forthcoming state election, where this is more about his desperate attempts to cover up his Liberal cuts than about supporting the future of Bendigo TAFE.
So do you not agree that this merger will actually bring more students to Bendigo and also to employment opportunities here?
Denis Napthine has come to Bendigo today, and with it has come many more questions that have come answers. Much of the detail today is vague. Much of the detail of the announced programs is subject to future business cases. This is typical of desperate Denis Napthine and his Liberal National Government, that they announce many projects across Victoria and they're all subject to a business case with no details in the future. Bendigo deserves answers. We deserve to know why we're losing our standalone TAFE Institute. We deserve to know why we've lost so many courses and so many jobs that have been cut, and why we're now being taken over by a Melbourne-based TAFE, because you've got to remember there's no transparency around this announcement today. All these arrangements that Denis Napthine has entered into have been done behind closed doors. He's come to Bendigo today and provided little more detail about the true nature of what's happening at Bendigo TAFE.
Well, it's clear that Denis Napthine has buckled under pressure from Labor's constant pressure for him to reinvest in TAFE, to put back the money that he slashed from our TAFE sector, $1.2 billion over the last couple of years. And it's really, the question is, the $64 million question is, why wasn't this money, the $64 million, invested in our TAFE before Bendigo TAFE had to cut jobs, before Bendigo TAFE had to cut courses and cause fees to rise? And similarly with Kangan TAFE, why wasn't this money invested in Kangan TAFE to support them with their job losses and their course cuts and fee hikes? Denis Napthine declared last year in the Parliament that he would not support the merger of regional TAFEs. Today he has gone back on his word, he has lied to the community, and we've seen the loss of our Bendigo TAFE as a result. Denis Napthine has no credibility when it comes to TAFE. His cuts to the sector have imposed enormous stress on families, on students, and on, of course, the staff who lost their jobs. Why wasn't this money invested to save the childcare centre? Why wasn't this money invested to save the library staff at Bendigo TAFE? There are more questions than answers from Denis Napthine's visit today, but it's only because of the pressure that's been put on him to put back some of the money that he took out of our TAFE sector that this announcement has been made today. But, as a result, we've lost our Bendigo TAFE. Well, I think this is a good start for Annie North. Obviously, the community pressure that has been placed on the Liberal National Government and Denis Napthine to invest in Annie North has been enormous, and it just goes to show what a strong community campaign can achieve. Our question is this enough for Annie North to build the facility that they need? If it's not, then Labor will commit to make sure that we get the job done. You were going to ask me something?
Is Annie North the best model moving forward?
I think with Labor's announcement around the Royal Commission into family violence, that on top of putting additional funds into resources that support women and children who are victims of family violence, together the combination is a great result. And Labor's Royal Commission will really investigate family violence across Victoria, particularly in regional areas, and give everyone who's involved in the sector an opportunity to say what is wrong, where the investment needs to be made, and how we can address this endemic issue that's in our communities.
The Premier came out saying that a new submission was actually placed in the government's hands, and that's why the issue is now on the table and the money has come forth. What do you have to say?
Well, I think Denis Napthine has had 3.5 years to fund the Annie North Centre. He's been dragging his heels on announcing funding. It becomes a little bit hard to believe anything Denis Napthine says, but the reality is we are 6 months away from a state election, and Denis Napthine is very desperate, and he will do anything to get his name in the paper. And I think that the announcement, while it's fantastic, the question is it enough? It's great, that the Annie North Centre will get off the ground, but is it enough?
And that $3 million could be questionably put into prevention of domestic violence rather than a refuge, which some are calling a prison. What do you have to say to that?
Denis Napthine's budget that he handed down a couple of weeks ago showed a significant decrease in the amount of funding available for family violence across the whole sector, and that includes prevention measures. So $3 million for Annie North is great, but the failure of this government to actually invest in the resources that the services need for prevention is very significant. And we've seen that the sector is also saying that Denis Napthine has not invested enough in prevention and in providing support for the families, and particularly the women and children who are the victims of family violence.